Hello, hello, and welcome to this next tutorial video. In this tutorial video, I will be talking about introduction to attributes. We are going to create a basic view title that you would put at the bottom left corner of all of your drawings. And I'm going to create it out of attributes. And this can be used for any sort of scenario. So whether you're doing like a door tag or a window tag, a room name tag, or a part tag, or a part name, or anything like that, you can make attributes for. Attributes are used for things that are commonly used. So like a title block, or like this view title, or let's say you use a certain logo that puts, let's say a project number or something like that in it, or something like that, that you put on every single page of your drawings. Attributes are used, again, for something that you use a lot of. And what we do is we use the attribute commands first to create the basic skeleton, I like to call it, the skeleton of the attribute. And then we write it into a block. And when you write it into a block, that's what makes the magic of the attribute happen. You've got to use the attribute commands again to make the skeleton, and then write it into a block to actually make the attribute useful. If you do not write the attribute into a block, it's not usable. They have to go hand in hand. It's like kind of like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It just kind of, again, you can have a peanut butter sandwich if you want, or a jelly sandwich, so never mind. Bad metaphor. So I guess it's, what can I think of? It's like an anchor to a ship, an anchor to a boat. Without the anchor, sorry, the boat just kind of sails away and it just kind of moves away, right? And you can't really go anywhere. But if you have an anchor, then you can actually go somewhere and anchor somewhere. And that's kind of the idea that I guess I'm kind of trying to make between attributes and writing the block. Okay, so let's get into it. So what do you have to have first? Now, again, I don't know what you're drawing. You may not be drawing a view title like I am drawing. You might be drawing something completely different. But what you need to make sure that you've drawn is your objects. Okay, so if that's a title block, you need to make sure you have your entire border and all of your lines that make all of the boxes on the right or left or bottom or top side of your title block, depending on the style of your title block. They're typically on the right side, but hey, I've seen tons of different styles of title blocks. If it's a view title, then I've got, my circle and my line. That's all. That's all I need right now. Other than text, I'm just talking objects, just objects. So pause this video, pause this tutorial, and draw your objects. So once again, if that's, a tag, then it would be, let's say it's a polygon and you're doing a 6-sided polygon, then you want to make sure you draw that first, okay? That's what I'm talking about. Draw your objects, okay? No text, just the objects. Pause the video, draw your objects. Okay. So hopefully you've paused your video. If not, hopefully you've already got your objects drawn regardless of your objects. Okay, now I'm going to explain something to do with the text. We are going to add text. There's always text in attributes. They go hand in hand. The whole idea is when you have text that changes. It's the object that you have on your drawing that changes all the time, and typically text is in that drawing. So I've got already 2 sets of text set up here just to display to you the difference of the text. So you typically have 2 different sizes usually too, so especially even in a title block or in a view title, or sometimes in a part tag. Sometimes you just have 1, sometimes you have 2 or 3. So I've got 2 set up in mine. Again, I'm creating a view title, so I'm setting mine up with 2. So what I'm displaying here is just please make sure you have your text styles also already set up. The attribute is the setup afterwards, when things are already set up, okay? So again, if you have not set up your text styles, pause this video and set up your text styles, okay? All right, I'm going to delete these text. I don't need them. I'm going to build now text in the attributes now. Okay, let's start doing attributes now that we're prepared. You've got your objects drawn. That's prep number 1 for attributes. Prep number 2 is your text styles. They are created, they are made, they are in your file. Okay. Now we move into attributes. The command to create your very first attribute is ATTDEF. @def. ATTDEF. Enter. and you'll get the attribute definition dialog box. Okay, we're going to go through all sorts of things here. First thing, mode. There's behaviors. Mode is that behavior, a behavior of the attribute. How can it interact? How can it react with different things, okay? So the only thing I want you to do here is actually uncheck lock position. Lock position can be quite handy, but it also can be quite annoying. Lock position means the attribute is literally locked where you place it. Yeah, like I literally mean that. So on the line, for example, here, if I place my attribute more on the left-hand side of the line, let's say, every time I place this attribute, it's going to go over there. Yeah, it sucks. And then you've got to move it every time. It's quite annoying. You can edit your attributes and your blocks later, so don't fear. It's not a one-stop shop. You can definitely edit them later, but the lock position ends up being a hindrance later trying to edit it. You can edit it, but it's still annoying. So I just like to tell all students, especially everybody, I like to tell everybody, when you are learning with attributes first in the beginning, do not use lock position. Just uncheck that box and clear the space of the lock. Okay. Next, attribute tag. Well, this cannot have spaces. Okay, that is a very important key point with the tag. What is the tag? The tag is literally going to be the skeleton name. So again, this is going to be used for all sorts of different files, right? Like I could use this for, let's say, an addition project I'm doing, or a custom home project I'm doing, or a deck project I'm doing. I have a view title. That doesn't change. So what is the very first attribute I want? Well, that's the drawing title. That's the very first thing that I want above my line. So again, if you're doing a title block, what's the very first box that you're filling in? What is that box? Is it the date? Is it the client name? Is it the project name? That kind of thing. That's your tag. If it's your part tag, is it the part number? Is it the part finish? Is it the part size? Right? Okay, that's what the tag is. It's the name. So for me, I'm going to do drawing title. Now, I like to type all in caps. I'm from architectural, so I will type in caps. You do you. You want to type in however you want to type your drawing, your attribute tags. This will literally display right here. It's going to say drawing title right here, or wherever you place your first attribute. Okay. So, but it cannot have spaces. Okay. I do not know why, but AutoCAD does not allow spaces. You can put them here, but when I press OK, it'll say, nyeh. Okay, it doesn't like it. And will it actually let you use lowercase letters? It says here, lowercase letters are automatically changed to uppercase. There you go. It explains it right there that it'll actually change them into uppercase for you anyway. So you don't have to make sure you're typing in uppercase. And if you want to type in lowercase, sorry, it's going to change it to uppercase. Okay. Prompt. The prompt is the question. So when I use this view title in my next file, let's say on Monday morning when I open up my next file, I place my view title. Well, I'm going to get a box of questions. You literally get a box of questions. You fill them out. And when you fill it out, your view title will go, ta-da, it's done. Okay, so again, some of this may not make so much sense right now. It'll make a lot more sense later. Okay, so just bear with me here. If you don't get it right now, bear with me. It'll come to you at the end. Okay, so prompt, aka question. What? Oh, I don't want to type in cap now. What is the title of the drawing? You are asking the question of this. Okay, so this is the date. If this said date, then I would say, what is the date? What is the client's name? What is the project name? That kind of thing, okay? Put a question. Okay. Default. Default is used if your tag or attribute does not change very much. So let's say, for instance, when I do our drawing number here and our page number here, right? Drawing number, half the time it's number 1. It's rare, you know, of course we sometimes have 2, 3, 4 drawings on one page, but I always have number 1. So when we get to that part, I'll use a default of number 1. But for drawing title, that always changes. So it doesn't really make sense for me in this case to put a default. So I ask you, with the attributes that you are creating right now while watching this tutorial, does this change a lot? The attribute you are creating, this right here, does it change a lot? If you've answered yes, then do not fill out the default. If you've answered no, it doesn't change a lot, then fill out the default to what it doesn't change. So again, if I was doing page number, I would do number 1 here. But for drawing title, it always changes, so I'm not filling it out. Okay. Text settings. This is very basic. This is, like word settings, justification, center, right, left, that kind of stuff. I like to typically do left or center. So I'm going to keep it on left. Text style. Hey, and hence why I said you needed to have your text style set up beforehand. Because you're just going to go ahead and click in this drop-down bar and click the text style that you would like. Okay. Now, again, I set my text styles up beforehand, and I had my 2 text boxes set up there beforehand, right? I know the top one was title and the bottom one was something else. So I know which one I want to use. But again, if you want to change this afterwards, don't stress. It's okay. This is editable. All right. Don't worry. If you would like to use annotative text, then go ahead, check off that box. And if you're still questioning what annotative text is, then put it on a list to go ahead and watch my annotative text video that I've created and dimensions. But if you do not know what annotative is, then do not check that box off. I'd rather not use annotative for this view title, so I will not. Okay, text height is going to be grayed out because it's set within your text style. Rotation, this is quite handy sometimes. You can have a set rotation to your attribute. If you would like your text to be on an angle, then please do so now. I do not, so I'm going to keep it on 0. And the last thing is an insertion point. This is important. You do want to have it on specify on screen, so do have that box checked off, because unless you know the exact coordinates, but it will be stuck at those exact coordinates every single time this attribute is placed. So 9.9 times out of 10, you want to have the box checked off, specify on screen. Okay, you're ready. We are ready to press OK finally. Now that I've explained that all in depth. Okay, there it is. Now you'll have your attribute attached to your crosshair right now. So you're going to zoom into the area that you would like the attribute to be placed and place it. Just click. That's it. That's all. Just click. We are just placing our first attribute. We are now going to repeat that exact same step for me 3 more times. I need scale, drawing number, and page number. For you, I'm not sure. Again, if you're doing a title block, you're going to want to pause this video and sit there for a bit and make all your attributes, because you're going to have a lot of attributes. But if it's like part tag, you're probably going to have 1, maybe 2, who knows. So now's the time to make the rest of your attributes. So I'm going to go ahead and make my next 3, and we are literally repeating the steps. So HETDEF. And I'm now going to fill out my next attribute tag for the next spot, which is scale. So scale, and I'm going to ask, what is the scale of the drawing? Default, this changes a lot, so I will not fit a default. And you'll notice with the mode, we did not have to uncheck that box. AutoCAD tends to remember the settings, the previous settings, which is quite nice. And you'll see same thing with my text settings. It's already set up with what I had, which is quite nice, except for the fact that I'm going to go to a smaller text size now for scale. I like to have the scale just a bit smaller than the drawing title. Me personally, I apologize. I'm walking around while I make this video, and my floor is so creaky. You hear it. It's such a creaky floor. Anyway, so go ahead and pick the text style that you would like for this next part. Again, it could be the same text style as before. Who knows? Whatever you're drawing. Go ahead and press OK. We've got the attribute, and again, I'm going to place it. And you can see there that I was trying to keep things in line. That was obviously on purpose. Okay, I'm obviously trying to keep these in line on purpose, and the positioning with where I'm placing them on purpose. Keep that in mind. I may even move these over. Do this now. Make these changes now. Okay, all right. Saying that for a reason. All right, next, ATTDEF, same steps. My next attribute is page number. So page number. Feel free to use symbols. Okay. So what I like to do is actually short form this even more because it's going to be small. So I'm going to go PG number for page. And then the question is, what is the, no, this is drawing number. Whoopsie. I need to do drawing number first. And it's going to ask, what is the drawing number? Now, my drawing number typically does sometimes change, but 9 times out of 10, it's number 1. So I'm going to fill out a default for this one so you can see within the video the difference between filling out a default and not filling out a default. And I want to change my text style here to go back to the bigger text style. Again, settings remain okay. You can also actually, before I move on, there's one more setting now that we've created a couple of different attributes that now pops up at the bottom, a line below previous attribute definition. This is quite handy for those of you that might be doing a title block especially. If you want your next attribute to be exactly lined up with the previous one, please check this box off and it will be completely lined up with your next attribute. I'll do this with the last one I have to create, okay? So I'm going to click OK, and there's my drawing number, and I'm going to fill it in. Now I'm going to try and get this quite where I want it to go, because again, it's going to overlap. I want it to overlap because when I fill out my number 1, it's going to be where the D is, okay? So I'm going to place it there. Now this may seem crazy right now. It's okay. I am placing it there on purpose because once again, when I fill out my when my default fills out for me, the number 1 will be where the D is. And I want it to be in the center of the space. Okay? All right, one more. Okay, now I've got page number. Okay, now for me, my default a lot of the time is A-1, but again, like I use A- a lot, but then that changes, you know what I mean? I have A-1, A-2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm not, once again, going to fill out a default for this, okay? And I want to change, I want to keep everything else, sorry, but I want to keep, change this. A line below previous attribute definition. Okay, and boom, right away, there it goes. It aligns itself right underneath drawing number where I had that. It's quite handy. Again, if you wanted to keep all your stuff lined up, like I could have done that with scale for sure, and I wouldn't have had to make sure that I line that up myself. Now, page number is longer than just number 1, so I'm actually going to move this over and up into this box because I'm going to have like A-1. So you can imagine this would be A-1, right? So I want that to be in there. And again, that will be like a 1 or 2, 3, 4, you know? So again, if there's a bit of overlapping, don't stress. You want to focus on where that first character is. And then what your typical character will be, like characters, I mean letters and numbers, when it fills out. Okay, I'm going to save my file. It's a good time to save when you create all your attributes. It's a good time to save. Save as much as you want. It's always good to save. Okay, so I have created all my attributes. I only need 4 for a view title. Again, you may need 10. I don't know. We may need just 2. So create all your attributes, and now's the time we move on to the next step. You can see that this is totally a skeleton. This is what I mean by a skeleton. It's the bare bones. We've just created attributes. That's all we've done. It's quite useless the way it is right now. I mean, I could double click and fill this all in myself, but like that's not the point of attributes. So now's the time we use block. Block is the magic that, like, again, is the key that we need to make the magic of attributes happen. So we are now going to move into using W block. WB for short is the command, okay? WB for short, W block. Do not just use the command block. No, you need to make sure that the letter W is before that. This is very, very important. They are 2 different commands, and block is only for the file you are using. W block writes the blocks. You use it for all sorts of other files, which if you are creating an attribute, that implies you want to use this for all sorts of different files. So it must be used with W block. Enter. And you will get the right block definition dialog, right block dialog box. Okay, first things first, the source. The source meaning what is going in this block. Now, I've got all sorts of other things in this file, and all I want are these things here, right? So it's going to ask you to pick. We get to pick everything. So I do not want to do the entire drawing, because again, I have all sorts of other things in here. I have not created a block yet. I'm going to pick objects, okay? Base point. Base point is literally where, so you know how when you insert a block into a file and you've got the block in a certain part, let's say it's a stove, and you've got your crosshairs attached to the bottom right corner of the stove or the bottom left corner of the stove. That is what's called a base point. Okay? So we want to make sure, like the sort of base point of a circle is the center. The base point of a line is the center. we get to pick this. We are creating this. So I'm going to click pick point because again, we do not want to fill this out. We want to pick the point. So click on the icon. And my pick point is going to be at the very end. My base point, I want it to be at the very, very end. If you're doing a title block, you're probably going to want the bottom left or bottom right corner. If you're doing a tag, you're probably going to want to do the center. It all depends on what you're creating. So click the point that you want to have your base point. Excellent. Next is objects. Well, it's going to ask you, what objects am I putting in this block? What objects am I putting in this block? Well, I'm going to select them. I'm going to use the icon. Once again, select my objects because I want to select the objects to go in this block. And I'm going to use a nice green box around these objects. So please be sure that you choose. This is so crucial. You need to make sure that you choose everything to do with the block, not just attributes, all objects. So if you're doing a view title, make sure you have that circle and line selected. That's why I just did a green box around everything. If you're doing a title block, make sure you've got every single rectangle box line that you've got in that title block. Or the tag, you've got to make sure you choose everything here. This is so crucial. When you choose everything, press enter. To tell AutoCAD you're done. You've chosen everything. Now, what I do truly like about this step is now this little warning we had here before has changed to a number of objects. And it tells me, it clarifies, you've selected 6 objects. Well, sure enough, if I think about it, I drew 1 circle, 1 line, and 4 attributes. Perfect. 6 objects. That's simple for me, and it would be simple if you're creating a tag. For those of you that might be doing a title block, again, this would be a little bit difficult because there's a lot of objects. But it does allow you to double check, which I think is quite nice. All right. Next, destination. So because we are writing a block, and again, we are writing a block because I want to use this for different files, it literally means you are creating your own DWG file. You are creating your own block drawing file, DWG drawing. You are creating your own block file. So you need to tell AutoCAD, hey, I want you to save this in this location in my computer. So you need to click on these 3 little dots at the very end. And you are picking the location where you want to save this in your computer. So I'm going to pick my location, and I'm going to save it in the exact same spot that this is saved in. That's usually what you want to do, but just in case. So that's here. And before you click save, if you clicked save, oh my gosh, bad word. If you clicked, I'm trying to do clicked and save at the same time. If you clicked save already, like if I accidentally click save, don't worry, click on the 3 little dots again, and you will be able to name your block, okay? So that is also in this step, is you are naming this block at the same time. Not only are you picking a place for it to save, you are picking a place for it to be named, okay? So you need to name it. So file name, this is a view title, so I'm going to call it view title. All it is. And that's it, that's all. You get to also pick what year of AutoCAD it saves in. This is quite handy because, for instance, if you probably encountered this. If you have a previous year of AutoCAD and you try and open up a newer year of AutoCAD, it may not work out for you. So it's always best to save your AutoCAD files to an older version of AutoCAD, so that way if somebody else wants to open this file, they can, no matter what year of AutoCAD they have. It's quite handy. So I always suggest go back to 2007. I've never known anybody to use any version of AutoCAD previous to 2007. So that's my suggestion. That's what me and my boss use, and it's pretty safe. Okay, awesome. So name it and click save. All right, awesome. Insert units, last thing, this has to be in the same unit you drew it in. So I am an imperial file, therefore I want this to be in inches. If you do this in metric, please be sure that this has the right insert units shown. Okay, click OK. And everything will disappear. That's what it'll look like momentarily. But then all of a sudden, you'll get an edit attribute box. This edit attribute box allows you to fill out your attributes. And you will notice you now have all of your prompts. But let's say that this box is super small at first, because I think it is usually. Please use your mouse and make this box larger, and then it will be larger every time you open it, as you saw mine right away. Okay, these questions that I'm being asked are the questions in the prompts that I filled in. So I now get to answer the questions. So what is the page number? Well, the page number was A1. So I'm going to do A-1. What is the scale of the drawing? Drawing number was 1, so I'm good there. My default, you see the default working. What is the scale of the drawing? We'll say a quarter of an inch. So quarter of an inch equals 1 foot. Sorry, 1 foot 0 inches. There we go. And what is the title of the drawing? Basement floor plan. So you fill in your prompts and you fill in your questions, and when you're all done, go ahead and click OK. Ta-da! And just like that, your view title will build, or your title block, attribute, whatever you've just written into a block, it will be built. This is, again, the magic that happens. You have to, again, set up your attributes first, then you write block, and when you answer all your prompts, you'll get your object you drew, what you created all your attributes out of. So before I wrap up this tutorial video, I want to show just a few little editing options in case you want to go back in and edit your title or your scale or whatever it might be, or your text style, whatever it might be. So this is my block, technically attribute, and if I select it, you'll notice that I've got my base point. My base point that I picked is active, and I get to move my view title by this base point. You'll also see there are just slight little base points for all the other attributes, and I can move it. Now keep in mind that I can move it because I did not do lock position. But when you move your attributes within the block, some funny things tend to happen. You'll see that when I just move that number 1, the objects just disappeared, the circle and the line. If I move basement, that worked out okay. So sometimes it does some funny things, sometimes it doesn't. Just keep that in mind. But what happens if you wanted to edit this? One of the things you can do is just double click. So if I double click on it, taking a second to load, I get the enhanced attribute editor. This is very handy. Now there is also a command for this. I will give that to you in a second. But this is just also double clicking. It's usually what people do. It is the quickest, most efficient way of editing your attributes. So you can see here that I can go through all of my tags, all of my prompts, and all of my values. Values is like the default section, what we filled out. You'll see where's my number 1. And if I wanted to make any changes, let's say this is not the basement floor plan. This is the existing basement floor plan. I want to put the word existing in there. Just like that, the changes happened right away. And this is not page number A1. This is page number EX1 for existing. Simple as that. Okay. So let's say now I can see EX1 is now too big. I want to put that on a lower text size. So I've now shown you how to just edit the text. That's very simple, self-explanatory. It's just under value here, under the attribute. Next, if you look at these little tabs, there's text options. Well, sure enough, I can double check everything that I've got here. I can double check its text style. I can edit quite a few things here. But I have no idea what attribute I'm referring to. I need to look up at the top. It tells you here I'm looking at the tag page number. Sure, that's what I want, EX1, but let's say it's not. You have to make sure that what you have selected here first, then go to text options, and this will change. These text options are for the tag that you have selected in this attribute tag, tab, sorry. So again, these text options will work only for the attribute that you have selected in this attribute tab. So again, I want to edit my page number. I want to select page number here first. I see that this tag has changed, then I go to text options. Now I'm going to put this on a smaller text style. So I wanted it to be smaller text. You can see there it's gone smaller, and I need to set my justification because it's gone just at the bottom there, and I need to set that to left, and now it pops right back up to the top where I want it to be. And sure enough, now it fits inside the circle and looks a lot better. So that works out. Let's just check out the last tab, properties. This is based on properties as in your layer, line types, line weights, things like that, like layer properties. So still quite very handy. If you wanted to change something, you could go and do that now. So I'm all done. I've made my changes. That shows you how to edit your actual text changes, and that also shows you how to edit size and also justification and location. So I'm now going to click apply and OK, and it's much better. But now what the problem is, my line isn't long enough. Now that's completely different because when I select on it, I can't get a grip point and extend this. There's nothing I can do, and there was nothing in the double clicking that, you know, if I double click on this, there's nothing that tells me that I can edit my objects. There's nothing in here that edits my objects. Oh, and before I move on, if you're looking for the command for this, I'm pretty sure it's Batman, the best command of all AutoCAD, but it's with 2 T's. So BATTMAN. Actually, no, it's not. This is all, sorry. So that's the attribute editor. Sorry, that's a little different. Batman is also another attribute editing command. So before I move on to editing the line, I just want to wrap up attribute editing commands. Batman is the second one. You can basically do almost the same things here. So it just gives you like a list, and you have your tags, your prompts, your defaults. And what you can do here is if you've made some changes to your original block, you can sync the changes. So this is going to be very handy in a second. So before I get to that, sorry, I will now bring up the command that opens up that box. Give me a second here. Okay, so that command is @edit. So sorry, the command that I thought I was referring to is ATTEDIT, @edit. So all attributes are ATT in terms of commands. So obviously we're editing an attribute, so @edit. And it's going to ask you to select your block. Which attribute do you want me to edit? I want to edit this one. And it brings you to editing your values. Okay, so this isn't quite the same thing. This just allows you to edit your values. So it's not, so I kind of lied when saying you want the command for that. It's not actually the same thing. If you want to edit your values, you can use a command for that. But if you wanted to edit all your text styles and all that, you've got to just double click. Just double click on your block and you'll get to this dialog box. There it is. The enhanced attribute editor. Okay, and it's probably, the command is probably like ENATT. @edit. Yep, there it is. I guarantee it. That's it. Select block. Yep, there we go. So if you want the command for this, it's @edit. So just put an E in front of that command and you're good. Okay, awesome. So now what happens if I want to edit my objects? You know, like if you're wanting to edit something in your title block, in that box, or this line, I want to edit something like that. Well, that is a completely different command. That is the command REFEDIT. This stands for reference edit. Okay, reference edit. This means I'm editing the block itself, not the attributes, the block. So the objects in the block, my circle and the line. So again, you're going to get the same thing. Select your reference, which means select the block. What am I editing? This. So I select it and it double checks, because if you have more than one block in here, you'll have an entire list of blocks that will show up here. So I want to edit my view title. Make sure you select the right thing you want to edit and click OK. And you'll see that your screen goes to like a, usually it goes to like a lighter grade color. Mine did not, but it usually does. But for the time being, I don't know why mine didn't. Yours may not have, but usually it does. Anyway, you can see that I'm in an editing screen. I'm back to the skeleton. Okay, and you can see the magic, I guess, the result, the overall result that I want in the background, grayed out. Well, now if I try and select my line, I can actually select it. I have grip points now. So I can grab this grip point, turn on ortho, and extend it, if I so wish. Or you can grab whatever object you need to. Object meaning circles, lines, rectangles, arcs, drawing objects, not text. If you wanted to change the position of something, let's say your numbers, or sorry, your text was not in the right position, like physical position. Like for instance, page number was over here too much. Move it now. Now's the time to move it. So what I noticed is my scale number. My scale number didn't quite line up. You see that? So I'm going to move it over because I'm picky. So I'm going to move that over just a bit, and we're going to see if that lines it up properly. Okay, I'm all done now. I've made my changes. My line is longer, and I've lined up my text better there. You're going to go back up to your ribbon, and you're going to look at the top right corner that I'm circling. You're going to want to go to Save Changes. You are saving changes to the edit of this attribute, right? We edited the reference. Reference meaning block. We've edited that. We want to save the changes. You're going to get this box that pops up and says, all reference edits will be saved. Are you sure you want to do this? That's because You remember that DWG file we saved? We picked a search path and we picked a part in our computer to save this whole block and we named it. You're editing that right now. That's what you are editing. So this box is double checking that you want to edit that. And you're going to click, yeah, I do. And there we go. Just like that, here we are. It has been edited. Okay, so that shows you how to edit your text, edit positioning, text style, text properties, as well as the objects. All right, now let's position it. Let's place it somewhere. Let's use this attribute. So I'm going to go to my page. I'm going to go to my page and I'm going to insert my block. I want to use this view title. So I'm going to go to insert, my insert tab. I enter. And I want to insert a block. Now you can see that it's probably right here because we've recently used it, but I want to show you how to search for it in case you don't have this option because it's right here usually. You want to click on this little icon here. And it'll open a file navigation for you. And that way you can go ahead into your folders and you can go back to the area that you saved this block. So I saved it in here. I'm just showing you for the sake of visual sake, and you click here and you find your block. Open. I already have it open, so I'm going to redefine it. And there it is. Now, it's absolutely ginormous because I haven't sized it for a page properly. So, but I just want to say, if this is set up properly for my page size, I now place it. And I get my questions. I now get to answer my questions. What is my page number? This page number now, for example, is A-1. This scale is, we'll say, 1/2 inch. What is this title? This is my main floor plan, for example. Okay. And boom, just like that, my view title has been placed. And I now move to the next page, and I move on to the next page. Okay. Now, let's say, for example, this has happened, and the scale of your objects are completely massive. They're way too large. Let's go back and edit that. I'm going to close my insert box, and I'm going to go back to model space. We need to scale this down. But I can't just scale it the way it is now. I mean, yeah, you can. So option one, I'll give you options. Option one is we just use a scale command on this. SC enter. I click my scale, my object, sorry, base point. And let's say I want to scale this down 10 times. Oh, not up, -10. There we go. Oh, it didn't like that scale factor. Too small. Okay, we're going to just use the mouse. There we go. That's better. I've just used the mouse and now I'm going to move it into place. So this is option number one. This is quite efficient, quite fast, because now I don't have to edit anything. And now it's completely placed where I want it to be. That's option one. But when I go to now my next page, and I go to my insert tab and I go to insert my block, my view title, it's going to be the same size. It's going to be ginormous. So it doesn't allow me to be efficient for the future, right? That was just great for a one-time situation. But I want to now edit this for the rest of the time so that way I don't have to do this every time. Well, I go back to the original. I scale this down. Okay, so we go into ref edit again. Let's see if this works. Ref edit. I don't know if it'll scale the text. We'll see. We're going to try it. And we're going to try and use scale on all of this. It may not because it takes the settings from the text style. So we may have to edit our text style as well. But we'll see. I'm going to select everything. SC enter for scale. Base point. Oh, it might work. And I'm going to scale it down to there. All right, save changes. Okay. It doesn't look like it take my text. Let's see what happens when I place it now. Test. Ding. Yeah. It did work. Awesome. Amazing. So although it incorrectly shows me here in this example, which is super interesting, I wonder if I redefine it, if I reload it. Ooh, let's reload it. I enter for insert. I'm going to reload the block. So I'm going to search for it, click on it, open, redefine the block. Oh, it may not even let me because it's changed. Okay, yes, we're testing. Interesting. So it wouldn't let me redefine this block, but when I replace it, If I reposition it, it's totally fine and allows me to it's totally fine as in resized. So that's option 2. That works perfectly, because if I go into my next page here, just like that, it's there. Now it's still a little too large in my opinion. I'd rather it be about this size. This one's been redefined, so that is the same. So okay, I'm glad this happened in my recording. So just keep this in mind. When you make this change to the block, it makes it everywhere. It makes this change everywhere. So be very, very careful about this, okay? You're gonna have like, you're gonna want to recreate the block itself and have different versions of it, which is totally fine. So what I find I'll have for view title's sake is I'll have a view title, but view titles don't really change in size. So this isn't a good example, because I would just make sure I edit this one to be proper. So which means I would remove this and re-add it. So if this isn't the right scale, I need to go back and scale it again. So I need to go back to here. Whoopsie, wrong window. Sorry. So which means I need to go back into model space here, scale this down again, scale the original down again, and then it'll be a better size. Okay, so if I do that, let's remove this. And we're gonna ref edit this. I'm gonna scale it down just a bit more. Ignore the grayed out stuff in the background, just ignore that. There we go, save changes, okay. Okay, ignoring the large, ginormous text, because it doesn't matter. What I care about is how it shows up on paper. This is now incorrect. I delete, and I re-add. Redefine. Oops, wrong one. Uh-oh, unless I did not want to click redefine. Oopsie. Interesting. I think redefining it is not working. Don't redefine. There we go. So you do not want to redefine, because it's trying to override the original. So that works out, and that way you can scale it down for the sake of this file. So testing worked, question mark, okay, and then yes it did. Okay, so that allows you the opportunity to go ahead and scale your attributes down if they are too large overall when you go to end up putting them on paper space, because that happens a lot. I mean, it's still a little bit too large in my opinion. I'd even scale it down even more, but I won't show you that. Just again, you get the idea. That's how you can go back. You can edit text, edit the positioning, edit the properties, as well as edit the entire size of the entire attributes and blocks, so that way you can make sure it works for paper space as well. I would then save this for paper space, or create the attribute in paper space. That's also an option. Create it right away in paper space so you don't run into this issue. That's also a really, really great way to do it, or draw it properly to scale right away. I drew it way too large right away, and that was my issue. So again, I do this on purpose in my tutorial videos because I know what students tend to do out there, or people who are just learning tend to do out there, so that way I can show you how to fix it. So I hope this works out, either just to create your attributes, create the block, and also edit them. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks so much for listening. Ciao.